Good evening Trinidad and Tobago, and good evening to all of the listeners of SynergyTV. You are tuned in to yet another episode of The Real Issues with yours truly, Dominic Romain. Always a pleasure to be with you, and thank you so much for choosing SynergyTV this evening. As we delve into the issues of the day, the topical issues, the issues that is on the minds and the lips of all of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. We are, of course, in an election campaign heating up, but if it is that you listen to some of the platforms, you would think that we are in a general election and not necessarily a local government election, because some of the campaigns, some of the platforms that are opposed to the government, to the PNM, are only talking general election issues. But it would seem that the only platforms on which you'll really get the information with respect to local government reform and what is going to happen after August 14th is to be found on, of course, a PNM platform. So, you know the format of the program. We usually try as best as possible to have guests on to share the information that you need, so that when we discuss the issues, we do it from a position of information, not misinformation, not propaganda, but real hard facts. And this evening, I have the pleasure of none other than the Minister of Public Utilities as my guest, Mr. Marvin Gonzalez, who is here to discuss, well, the roles and responsibilities of his ministry, how he has been functioning in that ministry, and then of course we will switch. We had to include some little politics in the thing because he is the Member of Parliament for Lopino Bonaire West. That was the seat that was challenged by Jack Warner in 2020 in the last general election, right? And we know Mr. Warner would have made some utterances recently, and the headlines yesterday, well, today, Jack is back. So we will also be discussing that in the time that we have the Minister here with us. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Dominic. Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago, your viewing audience. It's indeed a pleasure to come here and share some critical information with your viewing audience, what I'm doing in the Ministry of Public Utilities, as well as what is happening in the constituency of Lopino Bonaire West, and what is happening in Trinidad and Tobago in the politics. I mean, we are in the cusp of or in the throes rather, of a local government campaign, as you rightly said. When you listen to the other platforms, they're not discussing local government issues. Yeah. The PNM government is already, and we have said that this election is about local government reform. We have made widespread changes to the local government legislation, and on this occasion now we are moving full speed into reforming local government, because the issues in the politics and the issues on the ground in the communities, when you walk and you listen to people, it's about roads, it's about drains, about, you know, controlling mosquitoes and playgrounds and lights, and all of these things are local government issues, things that are very close to the community. And oftentimes the constant cry is that we don't get sufficient funding from in the regional corporation to be able to respond to some of those issues, and the government is saying that we are putting local government on the front burner to ensure that local government gets the required funding to be able to transform communities all over Trinidad and Tobago. I'm very excited about that. I guess the parties that are opposed to the PNM, they have no answer to it, and therefore they have to resort to all kinds of, you know, things that have no relation whatsoever to local government. Attacking people's, you know, character and personalities and what have you. But I mean, it's par for the course. Yes. And you don't allow yourself to become distracted by these things.
Right. So you would have been gifted, if I may use that word, perhaps one of the most challenging ministries in terms of what people want, in terms of requirements by the population. WASA for years has been a source of, you know, discord. One of the more challenging public utilities, even to date, you know, persons still complain that they're not getting water. But we know that you've been doing quite a bit of work since you would have assumed responsibility for that ministry. So just tell us a little bit about what you have been doing, what you've been able to accomplish with respect to turnaround, and what we can expect going forward.
So you're absolutely right. The Ministry of Public Utilities obviously is responsible for TNTech, which is the utility company that is responsible for providing the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago with electricity services. And then you have the Water and Sewerage Authority. It's an authority formed by legislation as well, and it is responsible for providing water and wastewater services. You have Swim Call, that is responsible for waste management,
right.
the National Maintenance Training Agency that is responsible, that is MTS, all right, providing security services, project management services to the Ministry of Education and other government ministries as well. And then you have TT Post, the government sole postal company that is responsible for postal services in Trinidad and Tobago. Just to name a few, the Meteorological Services Division, we only hear about them, especially in the rainy season when you have, you know, hurricane watch and what have you. So let's come back to the issue of WASA and the quality of service it provides to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. The government campaign on transformation of the Water and Sewerage Authority. Of course, I did not imagine that I would have been given the mandate to bring about the much needed transformation of WASA. And WASA has been on the front burner, you know, for national politics for years, 20 years, 30 years, where citizens have always agitated that they're not getting the quality of service that they require. And in that context, the government has decided that transformation of the utility company is very necessary. Now, transformation of this nature is very large scale. It is very complex. It impacts, you know, a wide cross-section of the society. As a matter of fact, it impacts everyone. Because you don't have a rival utility company providing water. So WASA and how previous governments dealt with WASA, it has always been a hotbed where politics is concerned. And previous governments, previous administrations have shied away from tackling the issues in WASA because to really tackle the issues in WASA, it may require taking some very unpopular decision. And a lot of governments in the past, administrations in the past decided not to tackle it because I guess they fear that it can cost them politically, all right? So, but the issue of water supply in Trinidad and Tobago is a very complex one, as indeed not only in Trinidad and Tobago, in the world, the region. And when you listen to counterparts in the region and all over the world, you would swear that you're living in a WASA world in Barbados or in Jamaica, all over. They're plagued with similar issues. Some countries have done quite a lot to bring about the much needed transformation of the utility company. So what are some of the main issues facing WASA that requires transformation? The organization itself requires large-scale transformation because it has not reoriented itself over the years. The job specifications of the various positions in the organization, they do not augur for a modern water utility company. Those job specifications have been designed 30 years ago, and they are no longer relevant in a modern water utility company that's supposed to be embracing technology in the way in which you distribute water, the way in which you communicate with your customers. And, you know, so that's the first major issue facing the company. Then you have the issue of overemployment or excessive employment within the organization. Because let's be frank, in the past, political parties recruited a lot of people within the organization to, you know, as part of the politics of the day. And as a result of that, WASA is overstaffed by 2,500 employees. And this is not Marvin Gonzalez saying that. I mean, so all the reports that were done, IDB, World Bank, internal consultancies that have been done, they've all indicated that the organization is overstaffed by 2,500 people. 2,500 people is quite a lot of people. And of course, it will impact the operational expenditure of the company. So that the $1.7 billion or so that is given to WASA on a yearly basis by the Ministry of Finance, that money does not go into plant refurbishment, expanding your infrastructure, ensuring that your water, those plants are upgraded so that they can perform optimally, ensure that pumps are maintained. A significant portion of that money, over $800 million, go towards salaries. Salaries. You understand? So what then are we using to upgrade your plants? Because those plants are operating 24/7. If you don't maintain those plants, they will fall out of operation. And when they fall out of operation, people don't get water. And when people don't get water, obviously because pumps are failing, you have aging infrastructure, your pipeline needs upgrading, they need maintenance. You cannot despite the expenditure of $1.7 billion on an annual basis, the money is not going towards upgrading, maintaining your plants, ensuring that your age infrastructure is renewed. So what you have is a utility company that was really spiraling in a downward position, out of control. Plants going out of operation. I inherited a utility company in Wassa where over 160 pumps that's supposed to be on booster stations all over Trinidad and Tobago, giving people water. Those pumps were locked away in rooms because there was no money to repair those pumps. And when I asked, well, okay, what is happening in those communities where those pumps are supposed to be giving water? Well, listen, Minister, that is the reason why we have water restrictions. That is the reason why we have water scheduling.
Right.
Because one station that's supposed to have, for example, 3 pumps, that station has 1 pump, and that pump is overworked because it has to supply large communities with water. So you have to shut off the water in one area to send the water in one area, shut it off, send it to another area, shut it off, send it to another area, in a station that really supposed to be equipped with 3 pumps. All right? I'm just using that as an example. A number of our plants located in East Trinidad were constructed in the 1990s or early 2003, 2007, 2004, around there. Those plants were designed to last 20 years. We are almost 30 years.
Right.
And those plants are still in operation. And as time goes by, the operation of these plants, they continue to decline. And the quality of service that you would get from those plants are supposed to be treating water to flow into people's homes so that they can drink, they can bathe, they can cook, and what have you. And if those plants are not functioning optimally, then it impacts upon the quality of water that you get.
Right.
It's a very complex situation. It is an expensive operation to drill for water, Dominic, to drill for the water or extract it from a river, to treat the water, then you transmit it to different locations, and then you distribute it to the homes.
Right.
So by the time the water reaches into the homes of citizens, it would have gone through several processes that is costing the state millions of dollars, $2.3 billion annually, and then the utility company makes a $700 million from the collection of its rates. So $700 million the utility company is collecting.
Right.
It is costing the government $2.7 billion. So that money has to come from somewhere.
Right.
And when that money is pumped into the utility company, most of the money go towards paying salaries and other operational expenditure, as opposed to improving your plants, replacing pipelines, upgrading your booster stations to improve the supply of water. So you have an idea of what I'm talking about. Here's the other issue. Over the last 20 years, the government has spent billions of dollars in constructing new homes under the Housing Development Corporation. A number of homes, for example, in my constituency, you have the terrestrial lands, a number of homes built there. In Ridgeview, you have a number of homes, just to name a few. But all over in Malabar, in central Trinidad, in West Trinidad, a number of HDC homes. And when you expand communities, obviously, what is happening is increasing demand. So if you're accustomed, if Wassa is producing 230 million gallons of water per day, and it continues to provide or to produce 230 million gallons of water per day, but you have expanding communities taking place, and you are not increasing the production of water, because expanding communities mean that you're going to increase your demand. But what was happening, because of its age infrastructure, as opposed to water increasing to meet the new demands, the water production was actually dropping. Because the plants are going out of operation, you're not drilling for new wells, your booster stations are going out of operation. So communities expanding, water production declining, and you have to place most of your communities on a water schedule. So if you want to understand why you are on a water schedule, if you're living in parts of Trinidad and your water schedule is twice a week, 3 times a week, once a week, as the case may be, it is because the water has to be moved around to give other communities. And HDC continues to build communities, and we have not, as a country, in the Water and Sewage Authority, expand and to drill for additional water to be able to meet those new demands. So you would hear the constant cry of citizens, 10 years ago we were getting water every day, and now we are getting water 3 days a week,
Right.
or 2 days a week, or in some cases worse. It is simple. It is because you have so many communities being expanded around you that the water now have to be taken from you and divided to meet the demands of those new communities. It's a very complex problem. Then you have the water, just giving you a snapshot of the challenges in the Water and Sewage Authority. I mean, we can go much deeper, but I'll just give you an idea as to what you're dealing with. But the water sector is wider than WASA. The water sector is all of us as a country. It is developers. It is people who do their quarrying. It is people who construct homes. It is people who build industries and factories all over. It is you and I, the average citizen, how we treat the environment, how we throw plastics, and we pollute our water courses and what have you. All of these things, Dominic, impact upon WASA's ability to provide water to the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. When you go and you engage in slash and burn activities on the hills, they impact water courses. When in East Trinidad, where you have the issue of illegal quarrying taking place in some of the richest rainforests in East Trinidad, I can tell you, those water treatment plants that were treating pristine clear water in Guanapo, in Aripo, in parts of Sangre Grande, on a normal sunny day, the water is white and cloudy because of the illegal activities taking place in the rainforest with all of these illegal quarrying taking place. Dirty water flow into those intakes, and therefore the government now has to spend additional money to treat the water so that it can become portable to be sent into people's homes. So it increases WASA's operational expenditure to be able to provide to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And those plants have never been designed to treat with that level of turbidity that you get in the water now. So the slightest rainfall in East Trinidad, you have to shut down those plants because of the level of dirt and mud that flow down the river channels and go into your intake. You have to shut down the plants because if you don't, you're going to damage your pumps. And that's the reason why in heavy downpours in East Trinidad, you hear people complain of not having water because you have to shut down the plants because of the level of turbidity that is coming down in the water. And if we don't do it, you're going to get mud water flowing through the taps. And then you have the Caroni water treatment plant, which is the largest water treatment plant in the country. Caroni water treatment plant, we had an incident recently. Caroni water treatment plant produces 75 million gallons of water per day, providing 250 customers, 1,000 customers in North Trinidad, Central. So over 500,000 customers. So that's almost half of the country that plant is operating. Most of the water from the east-west corridor, the tributaries and rivers in the east-west corridor, they flow into the Caroni River. That river, that water is now trapped at the Caroni water treatment plant, treated. And that is the reason why the plant produces 75 million gallons of water per day to distribute to several parts of Trinidad and Tobago. I can tell you, when you go, if I take you to the Caroni water treatment plant and you see the level of contamination and mud and all of the garbage that people throw into the water that has to be filtered, and it's an elaborate filtration process that takes place there to get the water up to a standard in which people can consume it. But when you go there, you get a sense as to how people are treating the environment. And let's go to developers. A lot of developers, and I don't talk about it much because this can really gross out a lot of people, but I'll be very straightforward on this point. A lot of developers go and they develop homes in several areas, and they will sell their homes to people, and those developments obviously would have their own standalone water treatment, wastewater treatment plants, and when those homes are given to residents, those residents are supposed to really establish maintenance companies where they will collect sums from the residents to maintain those wastewater treatment plants. Unfortunately, in a lot of developments around Trinidad and Tobago, those plants fall out of operation over the years. And you don't have any real treatment of that waste coming from those homes before the treated water is sent into some of the tributaries and water courses.
Right.
In many of those water courses, raw sewage are flowing into rivers because the developers do not put systems in place to ensure that there's a smooth transition of these developments to management companies. Right. And those management companies are now responsible for maintaining those plants by collecting the monthly fees from the residents so that they can maintain the plants. So a number of communities all over Trinidad and Tobago, in my constituency, for example, La Florissant is just to name a few.
Yeah.
But you have Linton Gardens, I'm just calling communities in my constituency, but all over Trinidad and Tobago, Paradise East and Paradise West, you have situations where those wastewater treatment plants, if they fell out of operation, and raw sewage water just flow into rivers. When these things happen, this water flows into some of your main tributaries and rivers where WASA will have their intakes to collect the water, treat the water. And because of all these things that are taking place by human behavior, the cost of treatment of water escalates further. So when we talk about bringing that transformation in the water sector, we also have to regulate the illegal activities that take place that impact WASA's ability to provide you and I with water on a regular basis. It requires regulating those quarry operators, ensuring that we do not have illegal activities around our rainforests that would impact, the quality of the water flowing into the WASA intakes. It ensures then that developers do not abandon homes and communities before they are fully transitioned into some of these maintenance companies to ensure that the plants are functional and that people don't, raw sewage don't just flow into our water courses. And then how we treat the environment, plastics, and how we throw bottles into the drainage and into the drains and all these things, how we pollute the environment. All of these things impact upon our water supply, all right, either the surface water or our subsurface water, which is our underground aquifers. How we treat the environment will eventually impact. And then, Dominic, you have this issue of climate change.
Yeah.
Climate change.
Climate
change is real. Rising sea levels mean that some of your fresh groundwater aquifers, like for example in the savannah, you can have saltwater intrusion. We've already seen evidence of it. We're already seeing saltwater intrusion because of rising sea levels in the Gulf of Paria. There's already saltwater intrusion in some of the rich aquifers in Tucker Valley and in Falls. Once you have saltwater intrusion, it means that you cannot now extract this water from your underground wells to supply communities with water.
Right.
You either have to go and drill for another well or find another source of water to be able to provide the citizens water. So saltwater intrusion as a result of rising sea level is a real issue that we are faced with coming out of climate change. And then you have extreme weather conditions, not only in the dry season, but in the rainy season, where you're seeing some of WASA's infrastructure, it's under extreme pressure. Pipelines are rupturing because of earth movements that are taking place in some of the large forests where major transmission lines are being disrupted because of earth movements as a result of climate change. And of course, in the dry season, where you have extreme dryness taking place, where the surface waters, the rivers are accustomed producing this amount of water in the rainy season, and in the dry season, when you have extreme drier conditions, those plants and those rivers cannot produce even 50%. So a lot of these plants, they go and they fall in production by over 75%. And that's the reason why you have to impose water restriction. So climate change is already impacting in a significant way the utility company's ability to provide water. So this transformation that we are talking about is so necessary in so many different ways. It requires bold and drastic decisions, not only to be able to respond to some of the challenges today, but if future generations were to have a more safe and secure water future, there are some critical decisions that we have to make today, and we are making those decisions in already approving a transformation of the water sector, and so we've already established an integrated water resource management policy for Trinidad and Tobago for the next 20 years, which will manage the water sector. We've already approved the transformation plan. Very soon, WASA is going to have new executive leadership. We've already started the automation process, and then of course we can go into the IDB loan where we talk about projects that we are going to be rolling out in the coming months that will help improve the water supply by tackling some of the problems that I've just spoke about. The state of your infrastructure, age infrastructure, rehabilitating some of your critical water treatment plants so that they don't fall into further state of disrepair, thereby disrupting the supply of water. We have already started upgrading of these pumps, the 160 pumps that we discovered. We have already started repairing those pumps. They are going back out and booster stations. We have already started doing some work on our main transmission lines so that the water utility company can be more robust and more rigid towards some of the vagaries of climate change and all of these things. So we can go further into some of these projects, but the transformation is large scale, dealing with WASA as an organization, but also bringing about the much needed transformation of the sector, because there are other factors that fall outside of WASA's control that impacts the utility company's ability to provide water to the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago.
Nice. And on that note, folks, we take our first break for the evening, and then when we come back, we continue the discussion with Minister Gonzalez, and we're talking WASA, but we're also talking the other public utilities, and then we're going to get into the political side of things. So stay locked, we'll be right back.
Wasting precious time at the bank applying for a loan, only to be denied? We understand your frustration. Here at Realtor Group of Companies, we take a different approach. Contact Saeed, Managing Director of Realtor Group of Companies and licensed moneylender at 238-6716, 242-7690 or 339-1670. Feel free to visit our office at number 14 Carney Savannah Road, Chaguanas, or number 132 Superior Road, Victoria Village, San Fernando.
Attention all bakers, doubles vendors, roti makers. Try Chic Lisha high quality, unbleached, bromate free, all purpose and whole wheat flour. Bleached flour and bromate flour is treated with chemicals that can cause cancer, and this is banned in Europe and many other countries. Chic Lisha flour offers a healthier option, being that it's unbleached and bromate free. It also has a finer grain and a softer texture, lower priced and conveniently packaged in 2 pound, 2 kg, 10 kg and 25 kg bags. Available at groceries and supermarkets. For wholesale and retail prices, contact Chic Lisha Limited at 665-3336 or 480-8715 or visit them at Warrenville, Canupia. Chic Lisha Limited. Quality you can trust.
The Solid Agency, the standard for artiste management and development. Booking for an exclusive roster of the region's top-rated entertainers. The Solid Agency, the standard for event execution live and virtual, including fully loaded Shaggy and Friends, New York, Nigeria, and Antigua music festivals, Budge's Long Walk to Freedom, Bounty, Beanie Versus, to name a few. Make your career or your event solid. Contact us now, thesolidagency@gmail.com. Call 1-876-469-4005. Visit solidagency.com.
Welcome back. You're tuned into The Real Issues with yours truly, Dominic Romain. And if you're just joining us, we're having a discussion this evening. My guest, the Minister of Public Utilities, Marvin Gonzalez. So before we went to the break, we would have been discussing the whole issue of WASA, some of the challenges that the authority is facing with respect to the provision of a reliable supply of water you know, was been for some citizens, you know, a serious bugbear over the years, over the last few decades. Water for all was promised in the year 2000. We know that did not materialize. And so the challenges with respect to the authority has only gotten worse over the period of time. But the minister is, in fact, giving us some ideas as to how, under his responsibility, what is being done in order to improve the situation. So, Minister, you were telling us about some of the projects.
So, I've spoken not in great detail because I
yes.
mean, we can stay a whole night here,
yeah.
you know,
yeah.
talking about the myriad of issues inside of the organization. But I just really summarize some of the key challenges as I see it, all right? But we recognize, and I recognize from the start, that this transformation is going to take some time. But we cannot wait for the transformation to be completed in order for people to get water.
Right.
So we have to fix the plane while at the same time fly the plane.
Yes.
So over the last 2 years, we have, under the Community Water Improvement Program, we have undertaken a critical analysis, a deep dive analysis of some of the communities around Trinidad and Tobago where water supply is really undesirable and it requires urgent intervention. So what we recognize first, Dominic, is that at the time you had 32% of the population in 2020 receiving a 24/7 water supply. 32%. Then you had, I can't remember exactly what was the percentage receiving 6 days a week. Then you have people who receive water 5 days, 4 days, 3 days a week, 2 days. And then you have people on the extreme end getting water once every 9 days. And some people, if your schedule is disturbed for one reason or the other, if you're on a 1 in 9 day schedule, that can go into 1 in 18 or 1 in 20 days if that 9 day schedule is disrupted for one reason or the other. So I inform Massa and the team at the Ministry of Public Utilities that it does not make sense that we spend scarce financial resources to improve water supply in areas that are already getting a reasonably good water supply.
Right.
So we set a benchmark where our interventions would be on communities that get water under 24, water supply 24/3, meaning water 3 days a week. So if your community is getting 3 days a week and more, you don't hear complaints from those areas. The people, you know, they have become quite resilient at 24/3, 24/4, they have their tanks. And by the time the next cycle comes around, it's just to replenish the tanks and, you know, their life it's okay. But you get most of your complaints from citizens who get water once every 9 days, or once a week, or probably twice a week. And if for one reason or the other, WASA cannot meet its schedule, maybe a broken pump, plant going out of operation, etc. So we have decided to respond to communities that are unserved and underserved. So under the Community Water Improvement Program, we designed a number of projects targeting communities that are getting water under 24/3. And those projects, because of scarce financial resources, we've determined that, you know, that those projects would cost on average 2 million, 1 million, sometimes 500,000, 600,000, because it may require, for example, in some communities it may require just undertaking a major pipeline work to integrate that community into the distribution grid. Some of those communities never had access to water. Some of it might involve, the project might involve upgrading of the booster station. So one of the first project that we rolled out under the Community Water Improvement Program was the rehabilitation of that pitch road booster in Mova, that's right next to the Lady Young Road.
Yes.
That booster station is supplying over 18,000 citizens in that Mova area, upper Mova, Mari Road and those places. That booster has been in a total state for years, just one pump working and what have you. Under CWIP, we upgraded that booster, just using that as an example. We upgraded that booster station, we get all of the standby pumps, and 18,000 people in that area saw an immediate improvement in their water supply. Over the last 2 years, we rolled out and successfully completed 40 projects all over Trinidad and Tobago. And in many areas, communities get water for the very first time. The last project we did was in Aruka. That's the last project we commissioned.
Right.
Where we built a new booster station in Golden Grove, and that booster station was to improve the supply of water to people in Five Rivers and parts of Aruka. In Paramin, we did a fantastic project where there's a rich water source to the top of Paramin that was never touched. And when we undertook the analysis, the experts said that that river can produce over 800,000 gallons of water per day, bringing almost the whole of Paramin to a 24/7 water supply.
Right.
And the upper parts of Paramin, where you have the famous lookout, never had access to pipe-borne water supply. And we undertook a major community water improvement program there. We built an intake. There's a large tank farm to the top of Paramin, 185,000 gallons of water. The water is being extracted from the river. It's treated, it is stored in that tank farm, and gravity flow into the community.
All of this is taking place in Paramin?
All of this is taking place. And we commissioned that. We commissioned that about a month or 6 weeks ago.
Okay.
And it has moved an area that never received water to, to a level of service of 24/7 access to water. And it has been such a significant and successful project that we are now looking at even expanding the zone from that river, because water is flowing and being extracted from that river 24/7.
Right.
People's tanks are filled, and when people's tanks are filled, they're sleeping at night, the water is still being extracted.
Yes.
You can now export the water to the lower parts of Paramin. So successful was that project. In Guayco Terminal, in Manzanilla, there's a place in Manzanilla North that suffered years for water. Then there's this water treatment plant in Point Fortin. I'm trying to remember the name of that water treatment plant. It went out of operation for years, and it's located next to a dam. I'm trying to get the name of it because we did a major commissioning there. And when we did the analysis, that dam could have produced 500,000 gallons of water, providing water to parts of Point Fortin.
Right.
And we got that plant back into operation to provide the people in that area with a reliable supply of water. We executed 40 successful seaway projects, rehabilitating boosters, in many cases constructing new boosters. Next week, we are going to be constructing, under the same seaway, commissioning a new booster in Mango Road village in Tunapuna.
Right.
The upper parts of Tunapuna that would normally get a poor supply because the residents live on the hill, you can't get the requisite pressures to get the water up. We constructed a new booster.
How many booster stations have you commissioned so far since you assumed responsibility?
About 15 booster stations.
Okay.
And rehabilitated perhaps 20. All right. Pipeline projects all over Trinidad. The good news, we have improved the supply of water to over 170,000 citizens under the Community Water Improvement Program.
Right.
And we move the percentage of the population getting 24/7 2 years ago from 32% to now 52 or perhaps 55%, because some of those projects that we commissioned, it would have moved it, the needle further to 55, going to 60% of the population getting a supply of water. Two interesting projects in Lupino, again in my constituency, suffering for water. The last plant that was constructed by Hector McLean in the 1940s, and the village of Lupino grew tremendously over the years. And you depending on the same plant, obviously that plant would not be sufficient to provide the people of Lupino. We constructed a brand new water treatment plant in Lupino, producing an additional 200,000 gallons of water per day. It moved the community of Lupino and surrounding areas from getting water twice a week, almost 24/7 water supply. So this has been a successful program that improved the supply of water in many communities all over Trinidad and Tobago. Communities that would have complained for years, calling the radio station, sometimes burning tires for, to highlight their concerns. You don't hear that anymore because of the intervention and the successes that we've had under the Community Water Improvement Program, Dominic. And in the coming weeks, as I said, we're going to be commissioning the booster station in Mango Road, and before the end of the financial year, we have identified over 30 critical pipeline projects to be rolled out in many parts of Trinidad and Tobago. So you would be seeing all of that taking place. The other part is that we signed an IDB loan where the government got $80 million US dollars, right? It's like what, over 500, 600 million TT dollars. And under that loan program, it is designed to escalate the transformation, to fund the transformation of WASA and to build institutional capacity. As we spoke about, you need to build institutional capacity to design a water company that would be able to respond to some of the current challenges in climate change, automation, and having a smart water network without having to depend on human beings to control your entire grid using SCADA technology and all of these things. So we are rolling out that as we speak, and very soon the country will be seeing the first rollout of an automated control room for the Water and Sewage Authority, where in this control room, very much similar to this studio, where you would see the water supply in every community, and whenever there's a disruption, you'll be able to see it on a monitor. Before people start calling and complaining and burning tires and calling the media that we haven't had water for 5 weeks or 6 weeks. And these things do happen because this system is too manual and you don't get real-time availability of information. So with this control center, there are going to be loggers set up on GIS information system being set up all over the water distribution grid, so that the minute you have a disruption because a plant perhaps go down or a pump goes down, you would see it on the control room. Or if a pipe is burst, you would see the drop in pressures. You'll be able to respond immediately, even before the customer is feeling the impact. That is what a modern network is supposed to be, and that is where we're supposed to take the Water and Sewage Authority. All right. So very soon, in October, November, we will be rolling out and commissioning this new monitoring station where the public will see this control center where the entire distribution grid and transmission grid is going to be viewed from a monitoring center, so that whenever you have disruptions, for one reason or the other, WASA is not providing the service, you have burst pipes, etc., that will be picked up on your monitoring center and be able to respond to it. But under the IDB program, I spoke about the state of your infrastructure. Plants are going out of operation, pipelines are being disrupted because of climate change, the need to drill new wells and what have you. So we have met most of the conditionalities to get to access the loan, and very soon you will be seeing a lot of tenders in newspapers for the rehabilitation of the North Opush water treatment plant is in Valencia. That will impact over 200,000 customers once we rehabilitate that plant from Valencia, Sangre Grande, Manzanilla, all the way up to 5 Rivers. That entire plant is going to be upgraded, and those people who live in that zone will see a dramatic improvement in their water supply. You would be seeing an upgrade of the Hollis water treatment plant again in East Trinidad, and the Guanapo water treatment plant. Parts of Arima that are getting challenges for water will see almost a 24/7 supply of water once we upgrade the Guanapo water treatment plant. Because upgrading the plant, it means that the plant will now be able to treat over 1 million gallons of water more to be able to meet the demand in the Arima area and environs. So the town of Arima and environs will get 24/7 supply of water. In the Freeport catchment zone, we are going to undertake a major refurbishment of the Freeport area. There are a number of areas in Freeport that are getting water once every 9 days. Those areas in Freeport, 25,000 citizens, very soon will see a major improvement in their water supply because we successfully drilled 3 wells that will produce 1 million gallons of water more in the Freeport area to meet the demand, the increasing demand in that area, and we are also going to upgrade the plant to be able to treat the extra water. And by the end of the year, we will commence the drilling of 3 more wells in that whole Freeport catchment area. So over 50,000 citizens living in Freeport and Couva and all of those places, Preside, will see a significant improvement in the water supply. In the Chatham water treatment plant, we have targeted that plant for major upgrade, well drilling, so the people of Cedros and Icacos and parts of Point Fortin that cry out for water supply because of the state of the infrastructure, they would see a lot of activities taking place to drill for new wells, upgrade the plants. And then in Mayaro, another place that suffers a lot for water, we've already started the drilling of 3 wells in the Mayaro area to get an additional 1 million gallons of water that would improve the supply of water to the the guest house owner, the people who do Airbnb services, domestic consumers, and what have you. In the Maraval water treatment plant, the oldest plant in Trinidad, that was constructed in the 1800s. That Maraval water treatment plant is also earmarked for major upgrades, so to be able to improve the supply of water of people who live all along the Saddle Road and Highland Park, Mocha. And we're going to be constructing a new water treatment plant in Santa Cruz. I'm very passionate about that.
Right.
Because the Santa Cruz River can produce 3 million gallons of water per day. And that water just flows through.
Right.
Like nothing. Like a dose of salt, as they say, through the system. We are going to be constructing or upgrading the Santa Cruz water treatment plant, where that water is going to be extracted, treated, and distributed to the whole of Santa Cruz. And the whole of Santa Cruz will be able to get 24/7 supply of water. You will now be able to access additional water to export out of Santa Cruz to provide the people of Tunapuna, people of St. Augustine, San Juan, and Mount Hope will now be getting water from Santa Cruz as opposed to the Caroni water treatment plant. Okay. And the water from Caroni water treatment plant that would go all the way to Santa Cruz, you can now redistribute it to some parts of the East-West corridor, because that water no longer has to go to Santa Cruz, because Santa Cruz is now producing the water that it requires. So it frees up about 5 million gallons of water from the Caroni water treatment plant that you can send to other areas where the water supply is not that good, such as the great impact that we have. And in East Tobago, in a place they call Goldsboro, a new water treatment plant is going to be constructed there. It is estimated that that plant will produce 2 million gallons of water for the people of East Tobago, bringing most parts of East Tobago to 24/7 supply of water. And I showed you a picture a short while ago. We are currently drilling some new wells in Bad Hill and Mary's Hill. The information that I've received so far, we turned the sod just 6 weeks ago, and yesterday they hit water. It looks as though the well is going to produce nearly 1 million gallons of water. So the whole area in Southwest Tobago, which is in Crown Point and surrounding areas, will get a major boost in their water supply 24/7. And of course, last week we commissioned a 7.4 16-inch kilometer pipeline from Signal Hill straight down to Crown Point in Tobago to be able to supplement water from a nearby well field to provide to those guest houses and those areas where people suffer for water when they visit Tobago. And that area, based on investment that we have made under CWIP, Community Water Improvement Program, a new booster station, the additional transmission pipeline that we successfully commissioned last week, I can tell you, the guest houses in Tobago that suffered for 20 years for supply of water, they no longer have a problem. So a lot is happening. I'm very excited about what is happening. This thing about water for all in the past is one of perhaps the biggest hoax on the population. Over $1 billion was accessed from the IDB to improve the supply of water. All of these plants that I'm talking about that are in a state of disrepair, none of those plants were upgraded. No wells were drilled during that period of so-called water for all. You understand? What I can tell you is that they lay down pipelines all over. They create the impression that they were providing water to citizens, and those pipelines today have water is not flowing through those pipelines. Because if you lay down pipelines all over the country and you're not increasing production, where are you going to get the water? For the pipe to flow through the pipelines. So it has been a major hoax. Billions of dollars spent. There was no improvement in the supply of water, no upgrade of your infrastructure, no upgrade of plants, no investment in technology, no more modernization of the utility company, no transformation of the utility company to ensure that it is a company that can respond to some of the present day challenges. And that's the reason why it is bad investment over the years. A lot of corruption, mismanagement, interference in the management of the utility company. And we have brought that to an end. And therefore, every dollar that we are spending, citizens can see, even if it means 200 citizens in a community, or 500 or 5,000 or 10,000 people are seeing improvement in their water supply. So I know, as a lot of people who listen to this program will say, but my water supply is terrible and I'm getting water once every 9 days. The last time I get water is 5 days. 5 weeks ago, when am I going to see the improvement in the water supply? My response to those citizens is that we hear you, and it is because of your pleas and your cries over the years, we have decided to undertake a series of projects all over Trinidad and Tobago. A number of the communities that I have mentioned, the 40 communities, they were once crying out like you for an improvement in their supply of water. They are no longer crying out.
Right.
We are continuing to roll out, and we know the areas that are critical. Cedras, Icacos, Freeport, Mayaro, and parts of San Grande, to name a few. And East Port of Spain and Belmont, Quarry Road, Leyland Hills, some of those areas where development would have spread and the infrastructure would not have been improved to meet the growing demands. As we speak, we have teams on the ground in East Port of Spain tackling the issue, introducing technology so that we can see when some of the upper points of Belmont not getting water or Gonzales not getting water. We're no longer going to be depending on people calling their MPs or calling their councillors that they don't have water. You can't get trucks because of the road is too narrow, trucks cannot go up. We are going to be deploying technology in East Port of Spain. We are going to improve the infrastructure in Picton, where the reservoirs are going to be filled to their capacity. We are going to automate the entire Picton Lavantil system so that we can get the requisite pressures to send water to some of the hilly terrain in Upper Gonzales and Quarry Road in Belmont and what have you. So there's a lot of things taking place. We are drilling a number of wells to meet the demands in those areas that have been suffering for water. And we have drilled over 10 or 15 new wells already over the last 2 years. And within the next 12 months, we're expecting to drill over 30 new wells strategically in areas that are suffering for water to improve water, the availability of water, building the treatment plants in those communities. So those areas in Mayaro, in Moruga, in Cedras, in Icacos, in some parts of central Trinidad, in parts of Valencia, in East Port of Spain, parts of Tobago. In the coming 12 months, a lot of activities will be taking place, and you will be seeing an improvement in the supply of water.
Any plans to implement metering?
Yes, there must be metering, I can tell you. You cannot run a water utility company if you don't meter your customers. As a matter of fact, you cannot manage what you don't measure.
Yeah.
Metering is very, very important in terms of how we conserve water.
Right.
When citizens know and customers know that every drop of water that you use, it is being measured,
right,
it forces that customer to be more conservative in how that water is used.
Right.
So you don't leave a running hose in your yard, or a tap running in your kitchen, or a leaking tank, an overflowing tank that has been just wasting water for years, and the neighbor who live on the higher part of the hill can't get water because the pressure is dropping because you're not fixing some leak on your house. All of these things. But if you are metered, if your tank has a leak, you're going to fix it. You're not going to leave a running hose in your yard, or to wash down your yard and power wash every single day and what have you. It changes behavior of the citizens. And when you and I conserve water and our neighbors conserve this depleting resource, more water becomes available for the utility company to send and to discharge to communities that are unserved and underserved. How you do metering is what is important. Because we are in a very difficult situation, the question is, do we take limited financial resources and invest in metering?
Right.
When so many areas are suffering for water, what are you going to be metering? Air?
Yeah.
You want to be able to meter water.
Right.
Or do you take the limited financial resources, improve the supply of water, ensure that you have a regular and a constant supply of water to the citizen, and then you introduce metering so that you can regulate the use of the water when it becomes available. So what we will do and what we are planning to do is introduce metering where communities are already on a 24/7 supply. Okay. So it has to be done in this way. Once that community is getting water 24/7, then you introduce metering so that the community and the customers in that zone, in that supply zone, would just pay for water depending on their usage. If you don't use the water, you don't pay.
Right.
You pay for what you use. All right? Contrary to certain beliefs, metering results in most instances in a reduction in revenue or decline in revenues. Because as it is right now, if you don't get water for a month, Dominic, you still get a bill.
Yes. Right.
And you hear people complain, but I'm not getting water.
Yes.
But if it's one thing that will come,
Is the bill.
is the bill.
Yeah. Yes.
And that is so, because you're not metered.
Right.
But if you are metered and you don't get the service, then the technology will not charge you for what you don't get.
Right.
So if you get water once per month,
your bill reflects that.
the bill will reflect that.
Right.
So it is a very just and equitable system. It is not a system to be afraid of, and the way a lot of people demonize it. It is very fair because you pay per use. And by paying per use, automatically, it forces you, the customer, the customer, to conserve and to regulate the way in which we use it. So there are some parts of Trinidad where we get 24/7 water supply. We are looking at metering, but of course that money will come from Massa's revenue. The improvements that we've made in Southwest Tobago, I mean, it has been a model improvement.
Right.
2 years ago, Dominic, as Minister of Public Utilities, I remember for Easter, there was no rest for me. When you all were relaxing and spending time with your family, I was on the phone with the commissioners on the ground in Tobago, because everybody would have traveled. It was coming out of the pandemic, and a lot of people traveled to Tobago. Over 75,000 people left Trinidad and they went to Tobago, all right, coming out of the pandemic. And the situation in Southwest Tobago was so dire that we had to ensure that there was a fleet of water trucks from Trinidad to deploy it in Southwest Tobago to be able to truck water to all of these guest houses. That was the reality 2 years ago and last year. And because of the improvement that we've made, this dry season passed. There was no request for water trucks. Last year, for the Tobago Carnival, we commissioned that booster station under the Community Water Improvement Program. It was able to supply all of the guest houses in Southwest Tobago with a reliable supply of water. And the further improvement that we made with the additional wells, the main transmission line, that entire area comprising 11,000 Tobago residents and 75,000 visitors at peak season will soon see a 24/7 supply of water. What then do you do when you invest all of that money to improve the supply of water? Those guest houses are using large volumes of water, all right? And they are not being charged for what they consume, those businesses. And we thought that it would be a good idea to introduce metering in all of the guest houses in Southwest Tobago, so that they pay for what they consume. Because they'll no longer complain of not having a supply. The government has invested millions of dollars to improve the supply of water. Water truck is no longer operating in Southwest Tobago, all right? And you are getting a supply. Very soon, more wells will come into operation. And that entire Southwest region will move to a 24/7. And we believe it is a perfect area in the country to introduce metering. And by introducing metering, it means that every customer will monitor the way in which they use water, and now you will have excess water to be able to redistribute to areas that do not have 24/7.
Excellent. So on that point, we go to our second break for the evening, folks. So when we come back on the other side of the break, we talk Tea and Tech, the RIC, maybe even the Salcott. So stay locked. We'll be right back.
My parents' generation grew up with Royal Castle. From the first restaurant in 1968, when that distinctive, tempting aroma hit the air. Like never before, fried chicken with a special blend of local seasonings and a one-of-a-kind flavor down to the bone. Today, Royal Castle still have that same delicious taste, and I love it too. And the kids, they have more to enjoy. For me, the Castle is more than just nice food. It's we own, part of me and you, and is the real flavor of TNT.
A warm welcome awaits you at Alicia's Palace, a hotel nested in the quiet hills of Lady Chancellor at 1 3/4 mile mark just above the Emperor Valley Zoo. Alicia's Palace is a perfect place to combine pleasure and business. A 24-hour facility with full amenities, including air-conditioned rooms with Wi-Fi, mini-fridge, microwave, and cable TV. Designed to provide you with quiet comfort and convenience. The perfect staycation location where you can swim in the outdoor pool, soak in the jacuzzi, or simply soak up the sun, all at an affordable price. Relax and enjoy local dishes in an eco-friendly environment. At Alicia's Palace, they conduct steam cleaning of all rooms and common areas in keeping with current health and safety protocols. Whether it's a special occasion or simply just to get away, Alicia's Palace combines affordability and quality service. For more details, check out their Facebook page, Alicia's Palace HQ, or give them a call at 621-1017 or 624-8553.
If you're planning an event, make us your first option. At Reality of a Dream, we can make your event memorable. We can assist in planning your corporate functions, moderate gatherings, family occasions, christenings, and more. We also cater for weddings and other special occasions. Our newly renovated venue includes a majestic entryway, which takes you along a path to a fantastic indoor facility which can accommodate up to 80 dining guests. A recently completed, fully air-conditioned, beautifully designed wing, which maintains the theme and flow of Reality of a Dream, adds 30 extra seats for dining guests. In total, we can now seat a total of 110 dining guests. Come see for yourself the splendor that awaits you. Walk along the path and make your way to the breathtaking, well-maintained swimming pool and gazebo, and also the entire grounds of Reality of a Dream. We've also updated the Dream Suite, which comes with all modern conveniences, where guests can enjoy the feeling of an exquisite retreat overlooking the entire area. Reality of a Dream caters to professional events. We provide secured parking for guests, so call us at 332-6880 and ask for Harriet, located at number 15 Moses Avenue, San Juan. Reality of a Dream, making dreams come true every day.
Welcome back to Real Issues with yours truly, Dominic Romain. I have as my guest this evening the Minister of Public Utilities, Marvin Gonzalez, and we're discussing the different utility companies, some of the challenges that the ministry is facing, and what are the strategies that are currently being put in place to alleviate some of those issues. And we were talking WASA before, and the minister would have outlined a number of different programs and policies that the authority would have put in place, and so persons should be seeing improvement in their water supply, and if you're not, you can expect to be seeing that very soon. So now we change up gears a little bit and we switch across now to Tea and Tech. Of course, we know that there was the recent RIC consultation with respect to the possibility of increasing rates, electricity rates, and it was met with a bit of pushback from the population. But again, people tend to push back when there is a lack of information. And there was a lot of misinformation. We would have seen what the opposition would have done, attending all of the different meetings and coming with all sorts of propaganda and the like. And so we want to dispel some of that information, some of that misinformation this evening. So Minister, one of the questions people have is that what is the role of the minister, the ministry, and the cabinet with respect to any decisions that are taken by the RIC upon completion of this consultation?
Absolutely no role.
Right.
Absolutely no role. So contrary to what the population was fed with by the United National Congress, that this is a policy on the part of the government to increase electricity and to increase water rates, that is some secret plan by the Rowley government and Marvin Gonzalez to increase water rate. Nothing could be further from the truth. But in any event, the issue of rate review is always a contentious issue in any parts of the world. And because of that, most Commonwealth countries have decided to put in place an independent regulator that will look at the issue of rate and the review of rates for utilities, particularly water and electricity, because of the fact that it can become very hot topic political issues, and political parties and governments of the day, because of the unpopularity, the potential unpopularity of a rate increase for water and electricity, it may have on the governing party of the day, they have always shied away from implementing revising rates and imposing rate reviews for water and electricity.
Good economics equates to bad politics.
Exactly.
Yes.
So they've decided to pass laws, set up independent regulators that will look not only at the issue of the customers paying a fair rate for the utilities, but ensuring that those utility companies, they operate in such a way that they can provide the citizens with fair and equitable and affordable service. Right. Because this is life. This is about your economy. This is about livelihood. An economy and a country cannot function without water, without electricity. Without water, you can't go to school, you can't bathe, you can't function in your homes, you can't have any commercial or industrial activities, and the same for electricity. So they regulate, and in our case, we have the Regulated Industries Commission that is appointed by the president, of course, on the advice of the cabinet, and they are allowed to operate independent from the politics, from any political directive. There is no provision in the RIC Act, as far as I am aware, that allows or asks or mandates the RIC to act upon the directive of the Minister of Public Utilities. The RIC must be allowed to operate independently. Unfortunately, in several instances in the past, the RIC was not allowed to operate independently, and that is the reason why you have, for the last 25 years or more, and we never had a rate review for water. Right. And the last time we had a rate review for electricity was 2009, as the case may be. But that is an undesirable situation. And even though it is a very unpopular issue, because nobody wants to pay more for water, nobody wants to pay more for electricity. But how important is a rate review for the utility companies? The transformation policy for WASA speaks directly to the need for a revision of the rates that we pay for water. Right. Because the transformation policy recognizes, and other transformation plans in the past recognize, that you cannot transform WASA and you cannot expect the water utility company to improve its levels of service if the rate it is collecting the 1993 rates. Right. The money has to come from somewhere.
And that's the actual rates, 1993.
It's 1993 rates.
Right.
The rates that we pay for water in Trinidad and Tobago is the lowest in the world.
Right.
1993. And that's the reason why WASA is collecting this about $700 million.
So 30 years ago.
It's 30 years ago. The same for TNTech. The last time we had a review for TNTech was 2009. Oh, how things have changed since 2009. Oh, how things have changed since 1993 in the area and in the water sector all over the world. COVID, the global pandemic, the supply chain issues, all over the world have impacted the operation of utility companies. It has increased the cost of operation. A lot of TNTech suppliers are international suppliers. The transformers, the conductors, they are not produced in Trinidad and Tobago. They are supplied by international companies and utility companies. TNTech cannot get and acquire and to purchase these things to ensure that you and I get electricity by telling these people, well, look, listen, well, the rates that we are collecting is not enough for us to pay for it. When TNTech faces its international suppliers, they have to pay the price, the market price for these things. The same thing for WASA. The cost for treatment has increased exponentially since 1993. Chlorine and all other treatment things that you use to get water into our taps. The price of pumps have increased. The price of all of the treatment process to get water and to extract water have all increased. The price of drill wells have all increased. So the money has to come from somewhere. But yet still, the issue of rate review, not only in Trinidad and Tobago, but all over the world, it is politicized.
Right.
And in the politicization, it is all geared towards fooling people. So that those issues that I'm talking about, prices, for utility companies to operate independently and efficiently so that you can get a reliable supply of water and a reliable supply of electricity. The discussion is muddied and people are not being political hacks of the government and making all kinds of couture and bacchanal and confusion and disrupting the affairs that citizens who want to know the real issue with respect to the price that is being proposed and the prices that are being proposed for the various categories, both for water and electricity, so that they can be educated on the challenges faced and how important the revision in those rates are for providing you with water and electricity. The citizens are deprived of that opportunity because you do not know what is facts and you don't know what is fiction.
Right.
Because it's just misinformation. So with respect to TNTech, I've spoken about rising costs to even produce electricity. And then TNTech purchases its electricity from independent power producers.
Right.
Those independent power producers also have their international suppliers. So the cost that they pay and they transmit that electricity to TNTech, it continues to rise. And then the cost of gas, you understand, is also a fluctuating price. These days it's not that high, but some months ago it reached somewhere about $7 or $8 per MMBTU, US dollars per MMBTU. But yet still, when TNTech purchases the gas from NGC to give to the independent power producers, they continue to pay $1.60. $1.60.
Right.
So you're even depriving the country of the opportunity to earn hundreds of millions of dollars to get the market price for its gas, to improve your living circumstances, better healthcare, better education. That money is now being sucked in and consumed in providing cheap gas to TNTech, to provide cheap electricity to all of us. And TNTech is grappling with rising prices on the international market to get its supplies from its providers externally and locally, and not even paying NGC for the subsidized price of gas.
Right.
The $1.60, when NGC could take that same gas and sell it to its petrochem industries and make much more money. So NGC is taking the hit. You, the taxpayers, taking the hit. And all of us taking the hit. TNTech is in a very unfortunate financial circumstance because it doesn't have the money to pay NGC. It is owing NGC $6 billion right now. Wow. And rising. All right. It cannot meet its financial obligations to its international suppliers. And all TNTech is saying that because of all of these issues, in order for us to provide you, the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, with a reliable supply of electricity, if we have to undertake the necessary routine maintenance on our infrastructure to change transmission lines, distribution lines, transformers, conductors, and all of these things, if we do not collect enough revenue to be able to do these things, we wouldn't be able to provide you with a reliable supply of electricity. But if you put it in the politician's hands, you will get nothing done.
Yes.
Because no politician wants to wear the badge of honor to take the unpopular decision.
Yes.
Because these things are so, unpopular. It's okay. We have an independent regulator, the RIC. Let the RIC interface with the utility providers. The utility providers now have to apply for a rate increase to the RIC. It doesn't come to the Ministry of Public Utilities or the government. It's an application process, and they have to put together a comprehensive and a sound business plan to convince the RIC that it requires a rate review to be able to continue to provide its service to the customers. It is something that they have to go before the board and the technocrats there and justify. The RIC will listen to the information, and the RIC will say, okay, yes, we agree with you. No, we don't agree with you. We believe that you can cut down costs here. We believe that you're spending too much money in overtime. You can cut down some costs here. So this proposed price increase, we don't agree with it. If you cut down on some of these operational costs, your request for that rate increase, or the amount of rate increase that you're requesting may not be as much, because we ask you to examine other areas in which you can save.
Right.
We ask you to invest in technology so that you can lower your operational costs. All of these things are done within the interaction process between the utility provider and the regulator.
Right.
All right? And when the regulator looks at the business plan, looks at its model, and is convinced that there is justification for a rate increase, the regulator publishes a draft determination and now takes it to the population to engage in discussions with the population as to why this rate increase is necessary. But when you get politicians now getting involved in that discussion, making bacchanal and confusion all over the place, the citizens and the customers don't know what is truth and what is fiction. And they believe that the RIC is this big dragon and big bad wolf that is there to make your life miserable. Rates are critical for the survival of utility companies. If they do not collect their rates, or collect rates that are in sync with modern market trends and realities, then the utility providers will not be able to provide you with a reliable supply of electricity. It will impact your economy. It will impact our way of life, and it can result in a decline in our standard of living.
And it can affect foreign direct investment
Foreign
as well.
direct investment.
Yeah.
So it has serious consequences for a country. So whilst I understand that this is something that people are concerned, and rightly so, the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago must understand the impact of this process, the seriousness of this process, and allow the independent regulator to do its work and to come up with rates that are affordable, all right, protecting the most vulnerable citizens in the country, whilst allowing those who can pay the revised rates the opportunity to provide those rates. And the government has said that when and in the event that the RIC has decided to increase or to revise the rates for water and electricity, we as a government will put in place a utility card policy so that vulnerable citizens in the country can have access to a utility card, so that they can continue to have and afford water and electricity. And those citizens of means and who have the capacity to pay for the water and pay for electricity, they would pay, so that the utility company can provide and can get their much needed revenue in order so that they can function effectively, so that they can provide all of us with a reliable level of service. That is how simple this is. So the government does not have any role to play under the RIC Act. The RIC is an independent body, and they have the power in law to revise, to review the rates, the utility rates in Trinidad and Tobago as in any other country in the world. And the law mandates that before they do so, they must engage in active discussions with citizens to educate citizens on the real issues before the imposition of a final determination on rates. Where is the RIC right now? They have published their draft determination. They've engaged in discussions all over Trinidad and Tobago for a prolonged period of time. And my understanding is that given the amount of submissions that they receive from stakeholders in the business sector and all over in NGOs and what have you, and citizens who wrote to them privately, they are now distilling the issues and coming up with, and very soon they will be making a determination. In a final determination, they would inform TNTEC of the final determination to allow TNTEC the green light, because TNTEC does not have the power to increase and to revise electricity rates. That is determined by the RIC. And it is only when the RIC informs TNTEC that we have looked at your business model, we have engaged in discussions with our stakeholders, we will now publish our final determination. That is only when the utility company, in this case TNTEC, can implement the revised rates for electricity in Trinidad and Tobago. So the government is looking And when the government is informed of the new rates, the government will look at it. And then the government will determine how we are going to put in place an appropriate subsidy structure to protect the most vulnerable citizens in the country. And I've already started working with the Ministry of Digital Transformation and the Ministry of Social Development, the Ministry of Public Utilities. All of these state agencies have already started working together on the policy, because we anticipate that the final determination is going to be published by the RIC, and we don't want to be caught napping, so that once that determination is published, we will be ready to implement the utility card system so that we can protect the most vulnerable in the country.
The SALCOT.
Yes, the SALCOT is a critical stakeholder in Trinidad and Tobago. We, Trinidad and Tobago, by previous government, entered into a water sales contract with the SALCOT as well as 7 Seas. So there are two desalination companies in Trinidad. So you have 7 Seas operating in Point Fortin, in Point Fortin in South Trinidad, providing WASA with $5 million of water per day. And then you have the SALCOT operating in Central Trinidad, Point Lisas, providing WASA with approximately $40 million of water per day. Those contracts are take or pay, meaning that you take or you don't take, you still have to pay. You understand? And that is one of the arrangements that has really bankrupted WASA. All right? If we remove the desalination contracts off the table where WASA is concerned, WASA will be making a profit.
Wow.
Can I say that again?
Please.
If you remove the desalination contracts off the table, WASA will be very close to making a profit or breaking even.
Right.
That means that WASA's operational expenditure, a significant part of it, is as a result of the water sales agreement with the SALCOT and 7 Seas. In the case of 7 Seas, the SALCOT is about $6 million US per month. So it's approximately $800 million annually the state pays in the both water sales contract. So if WASA is operating at 2.4 or 2.7 billion dollars, and you remove $8 million from that, you take it off the table. So then its operational expenditure would drop by $800 million.
Right.
You understand? So you come down to about 2.9 or $1.9 million. You understand? It is making about, if you increase WASA's, WASA can increase its collections from $800 million per year to about $1 billion. It means that as opposed to the government spending nearly $2 billion, the government can just prop up WASA for somewhere in the region of about $700 million.
And on a point of clarity, where you mentioned WASA's collection, because we know there are a lot of citizens who not paying the WASA bill. We saw it for COVID when people were lining up when WASA started the disconnection drive, and then
domestic customers are owing WASA about $500 million.
Wow.
Commercial customers are owing WASA $200 or $300 million. So if WASA were to collect all of its revenues from its customers, it will put WASA in a healthy financial position, whereby it can wean itself off the state and the Ministry of Finance, and it can raise enough money in order to undertake critical work on its infrastructure and even undertake capital investment to expand the levels of service. It will put WASA in a financial position whereby it can go to the bank and borrow large sums of money on its own, based on a healthy balance sheet. So, WASA would be able to borrow billions of dollars to undertake major infrastructure work to improve the supply of water. It is not rocket science.
So citizens are in fact shooting themselves in the foot by not paying the bills.
And that's why we say when we talk about reforming the water sector, it means not only WASA, because you see in Trinidad and Tobago, we like a beaten boy. We like someone to blame for a situation. And oftentimes we don't look at ourselves, and we don't look at how we behave and our behavior that may be contributing to the problem. And by not paying your bills, and of course people like to say, well, if I'm not getting the service, what I'm paying? But you also have people who get, and they're not paying. That is also a reality. And if those citizens who get a reliable supply do pay, then WASA is going to be in a more healthy financial position. It can wean itself off the banks and the Ministry of Finance. It will be in a position to be able to invest in automation, invest in its infrastructure, and improve its levels of service all over. So when you talk about transformation, it's transforming the way in which we as citizens behave more responsibly towards the utility company. It's not about just beating up and beating up. Sometimes, in many instances, we are contributing to the problem. All right? So rates is very critical. As let me repeat what you were saying. What is joke for scuba is debt for crapo. Rates are very, very sacrosanct to any utility company, be it water or electricity. If they don't collect their rates or collect a reasonable market rate for their service, then the utility companies will not be able to provide you with the service that you believe that you desire. And if you want to disrupt a review process by an independent regulator, then it means that the utility company will not be able to purchase its supplies from its external suppliers, its local suppliers, its external contractors, to undertake routine maintenance to be able to provide you with the service.
And on that note, folks, we take another break, and when we come back on the other side, Jack is back. Yes, so don't touch it there, we'll be right back.
Are you stressed and worried by problems? Then meet Priest Santosh G. Priest is specialized in palm, face, photo, and date of birth reading and gives solutions to problems in marriage, relationships, love, business, job, health, and removes all negativity and bad luck permanently and gives good luck and also gives lifelong protection. Home consultation is done. Call Priest Santosh on 756-8401. That's 756-8401.
Show them how we just free up. Crop over the blessing. Stealing the vibe. We knock outside again. This was nice again. Sing up the down to the gun and you jump to the song like a devil banana shake. The wing with your best friend. Push back, get down to the ground. The wine, the water, and the grind for me. The way out you walking at your waist for me. This beat so sweet, no fool. Sweet on the whole. I can tear the bark.
It's our story. It's vibes. It's the sweetest summer festival. It's Crop Over 2023.
Green Dot continues to deliver internet connectivity to a wide range of communities in Trinidad. With our combination fiber and wireless network, you get the service you need wherever you live. Stream your favorite shows, enjoy online tuition, stay in touch with your work team, and connect with friends and family with internet service at a price you can afford. As communities continue to grow, we continue to deliver. Call 224-GDOT or visit gd.tt today. Green Dot, improving and simplifying lives.
Welcome back to The Real Issues with yours truly, Dominic Romain, and sitting right next to me, of course, is the Minister of Public Utilities, Marvin Gonzalez. And we've been having a very interesting conversation so far this evening. A lot of information that the population would not normally be privy to. And that is why we have this new program, so we could get in-depth into the real issues and to provide you with the information to make the most informed decisions. Right? So we would have been discussing WASA, the public utilities. We change it up a little bit now when we go into the politics. So, Minister, Jack is back. You would have, Mr. Warner would have been your opponent in the last general election. And your constituency is an interesting one in terms of the demographic makeup. You know, and I was making the point because as a former member, well, not member, but part of the ILP, when I was told that Mr. Warner was going to contest that seat, I said, that's a difficult route because there are certain areas in that constituency, there's nothing Mr. Warner could offer that they want, right?
That's right.
And so said, so done.
Yeah. A lot of people predicted that he was going to defeat me. People who don't understand the constituency.
Right.
Mr. Warner is a resident of Five Rivers, so he's a resident of the constituency. And even though in his entire political life, he represented constituencies outside of Five Rivers.
Yes.
It was the first time that he was offering himself public service in the constituency under the ILP. And when you look at the voting patterns in the constituency of Brooklyn West, UNC would normally garner approximately 5,000, 6,000 votes.
Right.
And the PNM, would get maybe 10,000 votes, a little bit over 10,000. In 2020, I got about 9,600 votes, or
right.
almost 9,700. Mr. Warner got 4,000, and the UNC would have gotten 3,000. All right, so it was a convincing victory. But I was new to the politics at the time, and I was a virtual unknown in the political landscape, fighting a very experienced person like Mr. Warner. But I worked with Mr. Warner when I was head of the legal department in the Ministry of Works.
Okay.
And he was Minister of Works and Transport.
Right.
Mr. Warner knows me very, very well, and I know him very well.
Right.
Of course, I will never divulge discussions that I shared with him when I worked with him in my capacity, as it would be unprofessional of me to do that. So I wouldn't go down that route. But at that point in time in 2020, a lot happened with Mr. Warner in the political landscape. The bombshell stories coming out of FIFA that incriminated him in all kinds of corrupt and scandalous behavior. The non-payment of monies owed to our national footballers who represented us so well in Germany and not receiving payment. Monies unaccounted for in CONCACAF, because he was also vice president of the CONCACAF region. Monies accounted for that was dispatched to assist Haiti. Monies not being accounted for. Being expelled or rather fired as Minister of National Security because of all of these issues that he was having, not only locally but regionally and internationally. Being expelled as chairman of the United National Congress, and all of these things. When I looked at that, I saw Mr. Warner not just as a normal opponent, but I saw him as an unworthy opponent, because I believed that any citizen faced with all of these legal challenges should not offer himself or herself for public office in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Because to do so, it is an affront to everything that we believe in. It is a gross disrespect to our young people, especially so many of our young people who are crying out for leadership and who have a perception about politicians. This very noble profession where you can impact the lives of people in a positive way. Many people do not share good views and impression about politicians. They see us as all corrupt, and that is because of the misbehavior of a few. So when Mr. Warner offered himself as an opponent for public service again, in the constituency of Lupino Borneo West, I thought it was necessary for me to hit every home in the constituency and to demonstrate to the national community, not only in Lupino Borneo West, but the national community, our regional and international partners, that we as a country will not tolerate that kind of conduct in our politics. And therefore I hit the ground with a certain degree of vigor and passion, because I thought that Mr. Warner was bad for Trinidad and Tobago, and his presence in the politics is a disrespect to our citizens. And I campaigned and I campaigned, and I did not take him for granted, because I know he has deep pockets, and the resources that he had at his disposal, I certainly did not have that kind of resources. So my campaign was really a ground campaign, and I knocked on every door as best as I can. And as a political unknown, I promised the people that I will do my best to represent them professionally with ethics and morality, and that we will defeat Mr. Warner, and we are going to bring honor to the constituency of Lupino Borneo West. And he was so defeated, and I was happy on the night of election in 2020 that he said that he was going to step down as political leader of the Independent Liberal Party, and he's going to resign from politics. And I said, hallelujah. Trinidad and Tobago will not be seen in a particular way. And I didn't have much to say about him, even though he would have used his Sunshine newspapers to attack me from time to time. And I know he was operating behind the scenes. So he would use his writers in the newspapers to attack the government, attack me as minister and his parliamentary representative. But on this occasion, when so much more occurred, where Mr. Warner's conduct was brought into question to the extent that it was serialized in a Netflix movie, FIFA, or series, FIFA Uncover, where the tale of bribery and corruption involving Mr. Warner, not only as FIFA vice president and CONCACAF vice president, but even when he operated in the government of Trinidad and Tobago, where deals were made in Hyatt and some places in Port of Spain. It is really, really disheartening as a Trinidadian to hear a son on the sea, a son of your soil, being questioned and being implicated in this particular way. Now there's an extradition warrant out for him, where the United States authorities require his presence so that he can answer certain charges for which he was indicted. Many of the people who were indicted with Mr. Warner already served their term of imprisonment. He is just one of the few that is awaiting full extradition so that he can answer for his crimes, his alleged crimes in the United States. Today, Mr. Warner is making an entry or re-entry into the political sphere, being provided with cover by a leader of the opposition who's supposed to know better, who claim that, she is a mother and she cares about Trinidad and Tobago and she loves Trinidad and Tobago, her heart is clean and her hands are pure, and all of these things that she likes to say about herself. And to see that Kamala Persad-Bissessar, the leader of the opposition, now embracing Warner in a political accommodation with a former commissioner of police, interestingly, a former commissioner of police who recently applied for the job of commissioner of police, sitting on the same platform with someone who is convicted in the United States for all kinds of bribery and international crimes in what they call a political accommodation. I think it's a dark day in the politics of Trinidad and Tobago, and it will forever stain our political history. There's nothing, there's going to be nothing that we can do as a country that is going to erase this dark, nasty, devious stain on the politics of Trinidad and Tobago. Forget the UNC, forget about the ILP, forget about the, what is
NTA.
NTA, forget about them. the PEP and all of that. Let us see ourselves as citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. This should bother all of us. This should concern all of us. The signal that we are sending to our international partners, not too long ago, we were celebrating and commemorating the 50th anniversary of CARICOM in Port of Spain, where all CARICOM leaders assembled in Port of Spain to mark this very remarkable achievement. But in addition to that, we had visiting dignitaries at these senior diplomats from the United States.
Yes.
The chief of state, the minority leader in the Congress, and other congressional leaders, the president of Rwanda, and other dignitaries came to Port of Spain and celebrated and recognized and committed to our CARICOM affairs and that body that is CARICOM, representing an entire region of millions of people. We were proud as Trinidadians and Tobagonians that we were able to celebrate this very remarkable, achievement in our international affairs. All these leaders visited, and just about 2 weeks after, we have political leaders in Trinidad and Tobago embracing persons or a person who is wanted in the United States and who is well known to the entire world, especially the United States and the United Kingdom, for crimes and corruption in FIFA and other things. And this is a signal that we are sending to our international partners. So when we register very low on the global index for corruption, we have to look at all of that. Don't blame the Prime Minister. Don't blame the PNM. Look at what we are encouraging as a people and as citizens. And no wonder we are seen as very corrupt and registering very low on these corruption indices around the world. What message is that sending to our children who continue to cry for good leadership and to sound leadership? What message is Kamala Persad-Bissessar sending to our people, to all our people and our children, when you enter into an accommodation with someone who you told should clear your name before you come back? Who would have said all kinds of manner of things that you cannot even mention on this program?
Yes.
About Kamala Persad-Bissessar and all the people, about Rudal Munilal, about Barry Padaras and all of them. He said all manner of things about them.
Yes.
And they said all manner of things about him. Where he and the same Gary Griffith talk about her having 5-day weekends. And he would have spoken about her having drunken parties at the diplomatic center and where she lives.
The allegation that she would have received some $8 million for Section 34.
For Section 34. All of these things. Jack Warner, Kamala Persad-Bissessar, and Gary Griffith, again, are in what we call a political accommodation to win the upcoming local government election. I see that as nothing but an unholy trinity comprising these three individuals. It is nothing but a naked and desperate grab for power, hoping that national office and public office would save them from the long arms of the law. And all I am asking Trinidadians and Tobagonians is to look carefully and ask yourself, is this what you want for your country? Is this what you want for your children? Is this the Trinidad and Tobago that Dr. Eric Williams envisaged when he went up to Marlborough House and negotiated independence for us? Is this what education and free education has produced for us as a country? is this a reflection of our moral and spiritual values that we boast about in our constitution? Where are these people seeking to take us down? It is time, and this is the time, that regardless of where you stand on the political divide in the country, that we have to unite as Trinidadians and Tobagonians in one voice and reject what is being offered to us. Because what they are seeking to do is to normalize criminal behavior and bad conduct and immoral conduct so that ordinary citizens and citizens will not be able to differentiate what is good and what is bad, what is evil and what is good. They are seeking to normalize bad behavior, and therefore, as I said in a release, it is a poison dagger aimed at our collective conscience as a country. And that is what, and this is how I see this development to be. As a member of parliament and as a minister in the government, the People's National Movement, I have a duty as one of the leaders in the country to fight against this. And I'm going to use my platform and all the platforms that I have at my disposal to call it out and to reject it out of hand. I will not be intimidated by Mr. Warner in his personal criticism of me and trying to stigmatize me and trying to distract me by his nasty behavior and his nasty insinuations. I'm not going to be distracted by that. I will use the opportunity I have and the platform that I have to call him out, to call out Kamala Persad-Bissessar and Gary Griffith, because they are a danger to the body politics of Trinidad and Tobago. That's how I see it.
But even some of Mr. Warner's utterances last night would have been, to me, echoes of what you hear almost every night on Douglas Politics with Daniel Roberts. This man is a senator and it's the same thing.
It is the same, and remember, the same Kamala Persad-Bissessar who is now embracing Jack Warner and open up the platform to bring this convicted felon, international convicted felon, into the political sphere once more and offering him as a leader in this country. It is the same Kamala Persad-Bissessar who has appointed Arnold Roberts to the Senate. He is not an elected member of the parliament. He is an appointed member because the leader of the opposition, in accordance with the constitution that we subscribe to, has the authority to appoint 6 senators. 6 senators. And she has taken that constitutional power that's been given to her in her capacity as leader of the opposition and appointed people the likes of Anil Roberts and Nakid and Wade Mark and all of them and give them a voice in one of the esteemed parliament and the esteemed halls, constitutional halls of this country, where they use that platform and they hurl all kinds of insults against leaders and institutions. They would have used their same position and attacked the president when they sought to impeach the former president. And you would have seen, and the country would have seen how they conducted themselves, basically desecrating the parliament, interestingly, on the 27th of July, when the parliament was attacked by guns and violently in the July 27 insurrection. Interestingly, on the 27th of July, we would have witnessed another desecration of the parliament, this time led by appointed members of the House, and on this occasion, the Senate. We ought not to take this for granted. The country must not take this for granted. And if you believe what happened in the United States a year or 2 years ago, where the Congress was desecrated by extremist factions in the Republican Party, attempting to prevent a peaceful transfer of power after a democratically held elections. If you feel that cannot happen in Trinidad and Tobago, think again. Because the stage is now being set for this to be repeated in Trinidad and Tobago by having people of this nature enter into our political sphere and giving them political authority where they can disrupt our way of life and desecrate our democratic constitution.
Yeah.
It is a very, very serious matter, and as citizens, we have to reject that and reject it out of hand, because on August the 14th, in addition to voting for local government reform and all of the things that reform will do to enhance, our way of life at the local government level, we also have to reject that moral outrage that has been visited upon us by the entry of Jack Warner into the political sphere in Trinidad and Tobago, aided and abetted by the leader of the opposition and a former person who held the office of Commissioner of Police.
Yes.
When he's supposed to be talking to the police to take Jack's hand and take him down to Piaco International Airport,
yes,
so that he can go and answer for his crime.
Right.
He is now on a political platform, trying to convince the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago to vote for that accommodation.
Right.
So that they can occupy national office in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. That is a very serious matter that all of us, our citizens, should be concerned about.
And unfortunately, you have some 309,000 persons who would have cast their ballot for the opposition, who certainly will not see things as you would have just outlined it.
Yes, they will have their supporters.
Yes.
And I also believe that out of the 309,000 citizens who would have voted for the UNC in 2020, I am of the honest belief that quite a number of these 309,000 people have their own reservations.
Yes.
About this.
As has been evidenced by commentary on social media.
They have their reservations.
Yes.
I don't want to reveal, and I cannot reveal certain things.
Yes.
But senior people within the United National Congress reached out to me last night during that political meeting.
Right.
And apologized to me for the conduct of Jack Warner.
Right.
And they told me to restrain, do not be distracted, do not be pulled by his gutter behavior, because they know me and they know I treat all of them with respect.
Right.
In the parliament, even though we may have robust debate where we'll be critical of each other, policies and what have you, I never disrespect, and I will never disrespect any of my colleagues opposite. And they know me very well for that. And they know that I am quite capable of criticizing them at the appropriate time.
Right.
But Jack's behavior last night forced quite a number of them to reach out to me.
Yes.
So therefore I can see that the 309,000 people who would have voted for the UNC, I know quite a number of them are quite unhappy. They are very unhappy with his re-entry into the politics and also the UNC. And I am also hearing that he is already negotiating for certain positions.
Yes.
As we lead up towards the next general elections. It is going to be very interesting.
Yes.
I don't believe that this script is going to be fully written on August the 14th. I think it is August the 14th, we might just reach the first chapter. But it is going to go beyond August the 14th. And you're going to see a lot more chapters being rolled out.
Yeah.
I understand the UNC has their internal elections in September. Look out. It is going to be interesting time.
Yes, and Mrs. Prasad says is certainly hoping August 14th will give her a much needed lifeline.
And that is I mean, it's desperation. If she was winning, she would not have, gone to the extreme to impose that moral outrage on the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. She would not have gone to link up with her former commissioner of police, who had the worst things to say about her, who would have appeared before a joint select committee and said that people on the opposition serving on a joint select committee on national security were colluding with criminals and sharing information with criminals. He is now in the same party with them. So for her to go to the extent now to embrace these people, it shows to me the level of desperation that exists in the UNC. And as we inch closer to the August 14th local government elections and what it can mean for a sure defeat for the UNC. So their behavior and the immoral and evil accommodations that we are seeing, it is because they perhaps face a collective threat that they believe that they have to band together regardless of what would have transpired between them or among them over the years,
yes,
in order to escape the inevitable. And that is what is happening.
Minister, I know you didn't plan to spend 2 hours.
Certainly, did I spend? I can't believe this.
Thank you so much. It happens, you see.
The conversation was a good conversation.
Indeed,
so
indeed.
I really did not expect to spend 2 hours, but
yes,
I must thank you, Dominic, for the opportunity, for going into great details with some of the policy positions that I am pursuing and rolling out in the Ministry of Public Utilities.
Yes.
I've never had the opportunity to go deep into the water transformation, the water sector transformation, the transformation that is taking place in TNTech. I mean, and I could come back here and even discuss further the transformation that is about to take place with solid waste management as well. A lot of things happening there. The implementation of the recycling policy and legislation, beverage container, all of these things. And even as we grapple with the effects of climate change, you will be happy to know that the meteorological services division under the Ministry of Public Utilities in itself is undergoing major transformation as we seek to reposition the Met Office to be able to provide the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago leverage on technology to provide all of us with timely data so that we can know of impending weather conditions, so that we can take appropriate action to protect ourselves and to protect our properties and what have you. So a lot is happening in the sphere of the Meteorological Services Division, and on the next occasion I'm going to come and delve further into these things.
Excellent. So folks, we're out of time, but as always, not out of things to say. And again, I want to thank the Minister for taking time to come and speak with us this evening, and he's definitely going to be back very soon because there's a lot more information that we need to get going forward. So enjoy the rest of your evening, and tomorrow night we have another exciting program. We have one of his colleagues. I won't say who it is yet, right? Just in case. There's a meeting tomorrow in Arima.
That's right.
Yes. So PNM meeting in Arima. So all roads lead to Arima tomorrow evening. Yeah.
The women's platform.
Yes, the women's platform, right? But we'll also have some action taking place here too. So we'll see you back here tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Enjoy the rest of the evening. We're out.